Welcome back to Homes Explained, and today we're exploring a style many people recognise even though they can't name it, the Mediterranean Revival. But this style didn't originate in America. It was imported, adapted and reshaped. In this video, we'll explore the history, the defining exterior as well as interior features, as well as the legacy the Mediterranean Revival left behind. And stay with me to the end because I'll test your eye with a quick quiz to see how well you know your Mediterranean revivals. Sun-warmed, weathered and rooted in tradition, Mediterranean Revival drew inspiration from the broader regions of Spain, Italy and North Africa, places defined by stucco walls, clay roofs, arches and outdoor living. The style began to take hold in the United States in the early 20th century, just as affluent Americans returned from their European travel, wanting homes that felt older, established and built for leisurely climates. It found its strongest footing in Florida and California, where warm weather made the architecture feel authentic rather than theatrical. In Florida, the Mediterranean Revival became synonymous with luxury resorts during the 1920s land boom, while in California it blended naturally with the Spanish colonial roots and the growing appeal of indoor-outdoor living. Its rise wasn't purely aesthetic, it reflected a cultural mood. Americans in the 1920s craved escape, permanence and a sense of heritage, and Mediterranean Revival offered all three. By the time Hollywood embraced it for its hillside vistas, it became more than architecture. It became a symbol of a slower, sun-drenched way of life, eventually shaping suburban ideals across the country. Rooted in coastal luxury and resort living, Mediterranean revivals developed a very clear and recognisable visual language. So let's start with its most identifiable exterior feature, which is the roof. Mediterranean Revival homes almost always feature a low or gently pitched roof finished in red clay barrel tiles. These tiles trace back to the ancient Roman and Spanish construction, where their curved form wasn't just aesthetic but also practical, helping to deflect the heat and withstand the intense sun of coastal climates. Next up, look at the walls because they immediately set the tone. And instead of the bright white stucco which we saw with the Spanish Revival, Mediterranean Revival embraces a much more earthy colour such as tan, sand, beige, echoing the Sun Age plaster of the French and Italian villas. The slightly weathered finish on the exterior stucco is actually very deliberate because it's meant to convey age, permanence, and an estate that can stand for generations. The third defining exterior feature of the Mediterranean Revival is the use of arches. Doorways, windows and arcades are often framed with rounded arches, softening hard lines and introducing depth through shadow. Now, this form has deep roots in the Moorish and Spanish Renaissance architecture, chosen for both its structural strength and its sense of understated elegance. In hot climates, arches allowed for wider exterior openings, making it possible to frame views and invite breezes without relying on heavy structural support. Another unmistakable exterior element appears at the entrance. Mediterranean Revival homes often featured heavy plank doors, and they could have been kind of carved, arched or studded, giving the facade a real sense of weight and permanence. And the use of studs dates back to medieval Spain and northern Africa, where the use of iron clavos reinforced doors against weather and intrusion before they became a decorative symbol of craftsmanship. These entrances are often paired with wrought iron balconies or window grilles, echoing traditional Mediterranean towns where ironwork was prized for its durability and detail. And finally, no Mediterranean Revival home is complete without its commitment to outdoor living. Whether through a central courtyard or a tile terrace, these homes are organised around open air spaces rather than treating them as secondary. Rooted in Mediterranean climates, these areas offered privacy and relief from the heat, and they often included pergolas and vine-covered arcades or even simple water features, which were intended to be reminders that outdoor living was supposed to be enjoyed every day and not just occasionally. While the exterior of Mediterranean Revival homes reflects sun, stone, and coastal tradition, the interior continues that same influence, emphasising warmth, craftsmanship, and a seamless connection to outdoor living. And inside, there are several features which consistently define the style. And the first feature to notice is found right underfoot, because floors in Mediterranean Revival homes often feature terracotta tiles, clay pavers, or dark stained hardwoods, materials chosen as much for practicality as style. These surfaces stay cool in hot climates and also reinforce the earthy palette established by the exterior. But also their textured finish and natural colour variants bring a sense of kind of age and authenticity, which reinforces the traditional Mediterranean Revival interiors where floors were designed to last for generations. Overhead, the ceilings reveal another hallmark of the style. Exposed wooden beams, often dark stained or hand hewn, emphasise structure and craftsmanship. And by the way, hand hewn simply means that the beams were shaped by hand using tools, leaving kind of subtle irregularities that deliberately reflect the work of a craftsman rather than the use of a machine. This links back to centuries-old construction where structural elements were left visible, celebrating the weight and honesty of the materials. The character continues on the walls and through the transitions between rooms. Interior walls were typically finished in a smooth or lightly textured plaster, creating a softer, more organic surface than what you typically see with like the modern drywall we have these days. And just like the exterior, the palette stays very warm. Creams and parchment tones rather than a very stark white echoed the sun-aged interiors across Italy and Spain. Doorways were often arched or rounded, which was a direct influence from the Moorish and Spanish masonry, where curved openings softened boundaries between spaces. And finally, one of the most expressive interior elements appears in the use of decorative tile. You'll often find hand-painted tile lining stair risers, accenting walls, and framing built-in niches. Influenced by Spanish, Moorish, and Italian designs, these patterns introduced colour and ornament, but in a controlled way without overwhelming the architecture. More than just surface decoration, these tiles reflected regional craftsmanship and brought a sense of artistry and permanence to everyday surfaces. Mediterranean Revival had a lasting impact on American architecture, especially in warmer regions such as Florida and California, where its climate-conscious design made practical sense. It helped establish a regional identity in coastal areas, influencing everything from resort towns to upscale residential developments. And its key elements, the red roof tiles, the stucco walls, the arches and the courtyards, became architectural shorthand for stability, heritage and prestige. But over time, rather than disappearing, the style adapted. Contemporary homes often simplify the detailing, but the core vocabulary remains recognisable and widely used. Builders still turn to Mediterranean forms when they want to convey permanence, craftsmanship, and a connection to outdoor living. But what really sets Mediterranean Revival apart is its commitment to materials and authenticity. It relies on weight, texture, and honest construction rather than surface decoration. Now, before we wrap up, let's put your eye to the test. I'm going to show you some images, and based on what you've learnt today, I want you to kind of yell out wherever you're watching whether it is a true Mediterranean Revival and what are the factors that make you say that. Here is the first image. So I'll give you a few seconds to have a think. Okay, so yes, this is definitely a Mediterranean Revival because it ticks all the boxes. So the four things you could have mentioned, it's got the low-pitched roof with the red clay barrel tiles. It's got the arches above the front door and above the three windows at the top. The front door itself, it's got the heavy planking and it looks like it's got some decorative ironwork on it. And rather than having window grills, the two upstairs, they look like they're French doors, actually walk out onto a ironwork balcony. And finally, the exterior finish is the tan stucco. Now, we can't see if there's a little courtyard because we're just looking at the front, but otherwise, yes, it ticks all the boxes. Here is your second image. I'll give you a couple of moments to have a think and let me know, is this a Mediterranean revival? And if you said no, you'd be correct. This architectural style is actually the Italianate. Now, they're closely related. The Italianate style is one of those areas that influenced the Mediterranean along with the Spanish and North African. So it's got the tan stucco, which is a little bit misleading, and it's also got very prominent arches. However, look at the roof. It's got quite a steeply pitched, looks like it's a hip roof, and it doesn't have the signature red clay barrel tiles. Also, on the right-hand side, it's got a very prominent tower, which isn't an element of the Mediterranean revival. The house is also not symmetrical. I know we didn't cover that, but asymmetry is part of the Italianate style. And finally, the windows are fairly tall and thin. So it's got more reasons saying it's not a Mediterranean revival than saying it is. So this is the Italianate. And here is your third image. So take a look at this and see what you think. So this one is a Mediterranean revival. Again, it's got all the features that we look for. It's got the low-pitched roof with the red clay barrel tiles. It's got the windows at the top with the decorative window grills. It's got the very prominent arches at the front. It's got the kind of brown wooden door, even though it's got glass inserts. And it's got the tan stucco. I don't know if I already mentioned that, but yeah, so it's got those four elements. Now, interestingly with this, look at the landscaping at the front. Don't let that throw you, because that landscaping is very French provincial. It's got the water feature, it's got the lavender, and it's kind of neat and kind of hedgy, which is what the French provincial landscaping is. So don't let kind of details from another architectural style throw you when you're trying to identify something. Well, I hope you aced your quiz. Thanks for watching today, and I'll see you next week with another look at the homes that tell our stories.